All right, guys, welcome back. I know I didn't give you very much time there to get those four tracks, four different instruments in there. Remember, 8 measures long. You need four different instrument tracks in there, so they're all different colors. I'm going to give you a little bit more time to finish that up. Just check the timer. When the timer runs out, I'm going to explain what mixing is. So you guys have a few more minutes. Here you go. Just leave the video running and listen for me. Go. All right, guys, come on back to the video, please. Okay, so you should have your four tracks put in there now. We're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. Make sure that we can have some fun with it now. So, I mentioned today we're going to be talking about mixing. So, what is mixing? Well, mixing when we talk about music is what somebody in the studio would do with that big control panel with all the sliders on it. That's what we call a mixer. And the job of somebody working down the mix in a song is to make sure that there's balance across the sound with all the different sounds that are in there, instruments or singing or just random noises in there. The idea is to create a balance so that nothing is sticking out too much. And if it is sticking out, that it's on purpose. Okay. You may have noticed that some of the loops were like so quiet that you just couldn't hear them. And those are the situations where we may want to turn those up in the mix so that they make more of an impact. So let's get back into band lab real quick. I'm going to show you some of the tools you have at your disposal to work with a mix. All right, so we're back over here in Band Lab, and we've got our four tracks put in here. Now, you'll probably have different tracks than me, I hope, some that maybe fits your style more than me. So let's take a look over on our far left. We can zoom in right over here. This is where we're going to really be able to work with mixing down our four different tracks. So first things first, we'll take a look. I happen to be highlighted on track 1. If you're on a different track, it'll highlight a different one. But if we take a look right here on the track I have highlighted, you're going to see this like greenish colored bar with a little dot on it. Now that right there is going to show us the volume for that track. These are all set to the same default level. All right. Now we can either raise that volume or lower it by clicking on this little dot. And if we go back, it gets quieter. And if we go up, it gets louder, obviously. And there's a little number there. It says plus and has a number. Or if you go to the left, it says minus and it's got a number. And then it says dB. dB stands for decibels, which is a way of measuring how loud something is. So whenever we measure loudness, we describe it in something called decibels. And that's what we have over here. So if I were to set this back right over near 0.0, it's kind of hard to get back to once you get off of there, but you want to get kind of close. Now, you're going to go through and you'll find that some of these are louder than others. And when you play them all at once, like this, it can be kind of hard to tell what sound is coming from which track. So I'll pause it. We'll bring our little play needle right back to 1. What I'm going to suggest you guys do with your tracks is go through and listen to each one by itself. When we say by itself, I mean solo each track. And there is a way to do that. If we look all the way over on the far left-hand side of each one of these tracks, it says M and S on each separate track. The S stands for solo. So what I can do is just click the S on this bottom track. And if I go back up and click play, all we hear is just that track. If you notice, there's a few moments where it makes no sound, like right there. And you can tell very clearly when there's nothing, like where there's no growth on this little line that goes through the middle, that's when something's really either very quiet or there's no sound at all. That's what the S stands for on the far left. And you'll notice that when I click the S, all the other tracks have a blue M on them. And you could probably guess what the M is for. If I unclick the S, we're no longer soloed, everything would play. But if I were to click M on something, that would mute the track. So let's say if I was playing this, go right back to the beginning here. If you click this line with the arrow pointing backwards, that takes you all the way back to the beginning if you double click it. Click play. And then if I were to maybe want to get rid of the beat, I can mute it. I can maybe do the same thing with the chords. Maybe get rid of the lead. And now you hear a bass part. You may have noticed that bass part was super quiet before. We just could not hear it. And this is a good example of something that needs to be boosted in the mix. So I'd highlight our bass part and maybe I'll just blast it out. Maybe not all the way, but bring it up a lot. If I bring our needle right back to the beginning, double click there, and let's take a listen. You may have a hard time hearing it through your computer right here, but I can hear it a little bit better because I boosted its level. And if I start unmuting things, now you'll notice once you get past measure 8 here and we get into measure 9, the needle keeps going. So we'll just bring back one more thing from last week, which is our cycle right over here. If I highlight in, if we click that, make it green, that brings our red bar back up. It's only going to cover our first 4 measures. So let's scroll right to the end of it. You want to make sure you don't have the 4-way arrow, get the 2-way arrow. We're going to scroll that out right out to measure 9. Now we should be able to start here, and it should take us right back to 1. This is going to be a really good, useful tool for you guys when you start mixing here. So I'm going to stop here and give you guys a few moments to just work on your mix, get a nice balance so you could hear each part equally so that nothing's getting washed out or drowned out in the mix and that nothing's standing out unless you want it to be. All right. Now, when we get back together for our last time today, we're going to actually take a look at how we can use mixing as a performance tool for making a concert even. When you ever see some DJs and big dance music festivals, electronic music festivals, maybe nightclubs, you see videos or pictures on TV or online, you may wonder, what are these guys doing? They just have maybe 2 turntables and a bunch of knobs. What they're really doing is performing by doing just what we're talking about, muting certain things, soloing certain tracks, and adjusting the volume. And we'll also take a look at something called panning, which is part of mixing as well when we come back. See you guys later this afternoon.